Alright there guys, and welcome to this very first video on my main channel for 2020. And of course, since it happens to be the start of the new year, that pretty much means that there will be some more news in regards to Power Rangers. And of course, we are going to be getting the second season of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, which is not called Super Beast Morphers, as some people already know about. But it'll just be simply called Beast Morphers again. Which, I don't think that that's a bad idea. In fact, I think that it was kind of pointless to just use the word super in the season names. I guess maybe Neo Saban just wanted to try to attract audiences for watching the second season, you know, to have them think that this next season was going to be anything special, although there really wasn't anything that much special between a number of the different seasons. I mean, I haven't really seen Samurai, and I don't think that there was really anything special in the Super season. And Megaforce probably was a bit special with Super Megaforce, since they did a Ranger suit change, but there are some people that did think that that season went all that well. And then Dino Charge, which happens to be one of my favorite seasons of Power Rangers during the 2010s. Again, there wasn't really anything special about the Super season, but, you know, I did really like it as a good continuation of the first story, bringing in the new villains as well as the new Rangers. So, pretty much, I do like Dino Supercharge for being a continuation of the first season of Dino Charge, even if there wasn't really anything all that special. I still don't get why they called themselves Dino Supercharge in that season, because they were not really all that super compared to the first season. And then again with Ninja Steel, pretty much same story, but there wasn't any new Rangers in that season. And it is unfortunate that they didn't even bring in Mido Ninja from the Ninja Return special. I guess probably not very much point in adapting that character, since it was film exclusive, and not really anything special about that. But anyway, here we are in 2020, and we are going to be getting the second season of Beast Morphers. But we will also be getting the announcement of what is going to be coming next for Power Rangers. Now, at this moment in time, there are all sorts of different candidates for what could be the next series. There's Resa Sentai Tokyuger, which was the Sentai series that came out after Kyuranger, which was what was adapted into Power Rangers Dino Charge, and came before Shuriken Sentai Ninja, which became Power Rangers Ninja Steel. And this is to date the only season of Super Sentai that has not been adapted into Power Rangers, while it does have some seasons that came after it that were adapted. And I have my doubts that this season could get adapted, and I'm sure some people wanted to see it get adapted and are still hoping to see it get adapted. And I at one time wanted to see it get adapted, but you know, it doesn't really seem to work out with the whole theme. I mean, the trains thing is pretty cool, but some people have said, no, it's not going to work. The trains are not the right scale. It's in Japan. The trains in Japan are smaller scale than those in America. It's not going to work out. And I suppose that could be very accurate, but there's also a number of other elements in Tokyuger which I have my doubts will be compatible with Power Rangers. So I pretty much would recommend them giving this one a miss indefinitely. And then there's also Ryusoulger, which I don't think they're going to be doing this one next, although I'll be surprised if they do it next. But I'm hoping that they're not going to, because I'm hoping for a different season to be adapted next, and I will get to that in a moment. The whole reason why I don't think that they should do Ryusoulger next is because, well, the current season is Power Rangers Beast Morphers, and Ryusoulger also happens to have a beast motif to it, so I don't think that it would work out to adapt this one straight up next. So I certainly think that they should just wait until a later time to adapt this series. You know, like, just skip it for the moment, and then after adapting a couple of seasons that came out later, go back to it. You know, just like what they did with Go Busters. They adapted 2 seasons that came out after it, and then they went back to adapt that one. Although, honestly, I did not expect that they were going to be doing Go Busters after they had done Dino Charge and Ninja Steel. But, you know, given this most bizarre event with adapting a season that was previously skipped over, anything is possible. And I think that I had heard that there were some fans that were asking, are we going to go back to adapt this series at a later point in time? And, well, we've done it. We have done it. Quite a surprise. I had my doubts, but we had done it. And then, getting on to the next series, which is Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. And lots of people who've probably been following me, probably since 2018 at least, know that this is the season that I am really desperately hoping does get an adaptation. Because there's like so many reasons as to why this season should get adapted. Because it brings in a number of elements that either haven't been in Power Rangers already, or they have, but it hasn't happened that often. Like, a couple of reasons why the season should get adapted next is, well, for one thing, it takes place in space. It is a space-themed season of Super Sentai, and I think the last time they did a season of the Power Rangers that took place in space was with Lost Galaxy. And I do remember seeing Power Rangers in space when I was a kid. I really enjoyed that. It was a pretty good series. I did like how the suits looked, and I also liked how it was continuing on from Power Rangers Turbo, even though Turbo was a season with cars. But Power Rangers in Space was also a pretty good series, probably surpasses Turbo in a lot of people's opinions. I mean, it is one of the series that had saved the franchise at different points in time. Like, there have been many instances where Power Rangers was planned on getting canceled after a certain season, and In Space was one of those seasons that was planned to be the last, but it ended up becoming popular enough for us to keep going with Power Rangers. So I personally think that that is one reason why they should adapt Kyuranger, because it takes place in space, and it really should be adapted, because I'm quite certain that a lot of fans will be watching that, because, well, you know, anytime we've done anything space-themed, it just has always been a success, so why should this be different? And a couple of other things, a couple of other reasons why this series should be adapted would be because it would give us an Orange Ranger. Of course, Kyuranger and Ryusoulger also had Orange Rangers, but as I've mentioned before, there are a couple of reasons as to why those series either should not be adapted at all or shouldn't be adapted immediately. And I've already discussed about those different reasons. But you know, Kyurager's Orange Ranger was the 6th Ranger, Ryusoulger's was an extra Ranger, but Kyuranger has an Orange Ranger that is part of the main team, which is something that has never happened in Power Rangers before, and it's also the very first time since Battle Fever J, very far back to the early days of Super Sentai, back in the late 70s, early 80s, in which we had an Orange Ranger on the core team. It's a very underused color for both Power Rangers and Super Sentai, most in particular Power Rangers, because we haven't really had very many orange-colored Rangers. I mean, we've had a few of them, but they were mostly US exclusive. But it would be great to get an Orange Ranger that's actually adapted from the Sentai series, rather than just having a repaint of some other Ranger costume. You know, like having an Orange Ranger that didn't originate from Japan. And of course, another obvious reason would be that Kyuranger has a female Green Ranger, which is something that I've wanted to see happen in Power Rangers for quite some time, as far back as 2015, and it was great that they finally did it when Kyuranger came around, and seeing a female Green in the series for the whole time. There have been many cases in the Super Sentai series, as well as in Power Rangers, where the genders and the colors of the Rangers would pretty much change. Like with Ninja Storm, we had a male yellow and a female blue, and that was also the case in Mystic Force. And of course, we've also had various different White Rangers, males and females, with the most recent being in Ninja Steel, where we had a White Ranger, and that particular White Ranger was of course female, and white is a color that has been used for males and females, kind of a little bit at a balance, so it's not really anything new. But you know, green is a new color for a female Ranger, at least relatively. We haven't seen it happen very often in either the Super Sentai series, and barely even in the Power Rangers series. I mean, of course, the new movie that came out in 2017, Rita, was formerly the Green Ranger, so I guess that probably is the first time where we do have a female Green Ranger in Power Rangers in any way, shape, or form. But of course, that Green Ranger was not adapted from the Super Sentai series, since that new Power Rangers movie was a complete reboot to the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series. And we got new suits that were not adapted from the Super Sentai series, but of course they were heavily based upon the suits from the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers series, which of course were adapted from Koyu Sentai Kyuranger. But you know, seeing a female Green Ranger on the show, on the regular show, rather than in the movie, as well as also a female Green Ranger that's not evil, that's another reason for adapting Kyuranger, because we've not had a female Green Ranger in the show before, unless you maybe count some of the instances where Gia and Emma have turned into Green Rangers in Super Mega Force, but of course, that's not by default, since at default they're yellow and pink, respectively. But I'm talking about a female Green Ranger who's green on a regular basis, not a temporary color. And of course, another reason for adapting Kyuranger would be because of the whole huge team that Kyuranger has, having 9 main members on the team. And, you know, they then get 3 extra Rangers, and that totals up to 12, and I know that there are also some people that are probably saying, oh, that's too many Rangers. That's not going to cut it for the budget. Okay, first off, that is not really an accurate reason for not adapting a series. And also, I'm pretty sure that some people who have said something like that either don't know about this or don't even care, but there is the Q-Let wheel, which determines what 5 Rangers to be sent out, so it wouldn't be all 9 main Rangers appearing at one time. It would be 5 at a time, usually, with only a few instances where we have every Ranger on the team active at one time. So I'm pretty sure that can work out. And another reason would of course be because this season would have a child become a Ranger. I mean, the last time that Power Rangers did that was with Power Rangers Turbo, where Justin became the Blue Ranger of that series. And you know, that pretty much was the only time in Power Rangers where a kid ever became a Ranger. But if Kyuranger gets adapted, we could have the opportunity of having that sort of thing happen again. And I can't really say anything else about why Kyuranger should get adapted next. And I'm just personally hoping and praying that it is what we do get next. We're just gonna have to wait until February, where they do officially announce what's to come in 2021. I do personally think it's going to be February that we get the announcement for this series, because it was February of 2018 when Beast Morphers was first announced, and I remember being very shocked when that was announced, because I was expecting Kyuranger to be announced as the next series. I was not expecting them to go back to adapt another series that was skipped over before. I just thought that because of the continuing pattern of skipping every 2 series, that if they continue to do that, Kyuranger would be the very next series after Super Ninja Steel, but unfortunately that was where the pattern ended. I mean, they probably could have waited until after adapting Kyuranger before going back to adapt Go Busters. I mean, I'm not saying that adapting Go Busters is a bad idea. I am just saying, why do it at the most obvious time when Kyuranger should be adapted? And of course, as I've said in previous videos and previous posts, that I personally think that Kyuranger was planned on being adapted after Super Ninja Steel, but I think Hasbro said, let's adapt Go Busters instead. I mean, that's my personal theory about it. And I'm pretty sure that Kyuranger actually was in the plans at some point in time, but, you know, Hasbro said, no, let's do Go Busters instead. And I had mentioned before that, that I did write to Hasbro about adapting Kyuranger, and they did actually write back, and here's pretty much the whole letter up on the screen right here. Feel free to pause the video to stop and read this. If you don't believe me when I say that Hasbro wrote back, well, that doesn't matter, because they did write back. It is true. And anyone believing against it is not going to change that. Okay, and of course, then there's the next following series following Kyuranger, which I hope Kyuranger gets adapted before anything that came after it gets adapted, because I really don't want to see Kyuranger get skipped over, even if it is not indefinitely. I mean, I certainly don't want to see Lupin versus Pat be adapted before Kyuranger, or Ryusoulger get adapted before Kyuranger, or the upcoming series, Kyuranger, be adapted before Kyuranger. Alright, so then we've got the next couple of series, like Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger, which does seem like a pretty interesting series, having team versus team, but I don't find it to be that impressive, though. You know, having the 2 different teams. I mean, it is a pretty cool idea, having 2 different teams in a single series, but I personally would not go for adapting that series next. And then there is Ryusoulger, which does look like it could be adapted into Power Rangers at some point in time, but I don't think they'll get adapted anytime soon. I personally think they should save it for the 30th anniversary, since it is based around dinosaurs, and we've already had a dinosaur-themed series not too long ago, and that was Dino Charge. And then the upcoming series, Kyuranger, yeah, again, this probably won't get adapted way too soon, but it could get adapted at some point in time. And it also does have a female Green Ranger in this series, too. And of course, this is the first time that that's happened in a series where we have the 5 traditional colors of red, blue, yellow, green, and pink, where the Green Ranger is female. So, yeah, I do hope that that series gets adapted, but not too soon. I'd rather see Kyuranger get adapted first, because it has a lot more to offer than Kyuranger does, and, you know, Kyuranger is the upcoming series, and they probably should wait on that. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that Hasbro is actually going to listen to us and adapt Kyuranger as the next series. I mean, as far as I know, they probably already have the next series planned out. They just need to announce it, and hopefully I will like the answer that they give us. And like when I see them, if I see them adapt or announce that they will adapt Kyuranger next, it'll pretty much to me be like, we're sorry we didn't adapt this series before. Here it is now. I hope you can forgive us. Alright, so that's pretty much all I have to say about my personal thoughts about the upcoming series that they could do next. So I hope to see you guys in a later video.